Hi, I'm Lucas, and today I'm going to show you what it looks like when a patient is hypervigilant, emotionally distant, or exhibits eccentric thoughts and behaviors. These behaviors might be signs of cluster A personality disorders, and understanding them can make you a better nurse or psychology student. Welcome to the Psycho Nurse. In this video, I'll break down paranoid, schizoid, and schizotypal personality disorders. By the end, you'll understand their core psychopathology, clinical presentations, and practical tips for patient care. Let's dive in. First up, let's talk about paranoid personality disorder, or PPD. This disorder is defined by a pervasive and deep-seated distrust and suspiciousness of others. People with PPD are constantly on guard, interpreting even the most innocent actions as malicious or threatening. They believe others are out to harm, exploit, or deceive them, even when there's no evidence whatsoever to support these beliefs. This isn't just being a little wary. It's a persistent pattern that colors their entire worldview and affects all their relationships. You'll notice several key traits. Hypervigilance is a big one. They're always scanning their environment for potential threats, making it difficult for them to relax. They might analyze every word you say, looking for hidden meanings or signs of betrayal. Another key feature is projection. Instead of acknowledging their own negative feelings like anger or hostility, they project them onto others. They might accuse you of being angry with them when, in reality, they are the ones feeling that anger. Pathological jealousy is also common. They might be intensely suspicious of their partners or family members, constantly questioning their loyalty and creating a lot of interpersonal conflict. As a nurse, I've seen this firsthand. Imagine a patient who flat out refuses their medication. When you ask why, they're convinced you're trying to poison them. It's not that they don't want to get better. It's that their paranoia is so strong it overrides their rational judgment. In situations like this, my approach is crucial. I've learned that being calm, transparent, and incredibly consistent is key. I explain exactly what the medication is, what it does, and why I'm giving it, using clear and simple language. I maintain a non-confrontational and professional demeanor. This consistent and straightforward approach helps to slowly reduce their perceived threat and can begin to build a fragile sense of trust. It's a slow process, but it's essential for providing safe care. Next, let's move on to schizoid personality disorder, or SPD. This one is all about emotional detachment and social isolation. Patients with schizoid personality disorder aren't necessarily suspicious like those with PPD. Instead, they appear profoundly indifferent to social relationships. They often prefer being alone and seem to derive little to no pleasure from interacting with others, including family. It's a pervasive pattern of detachment from social relationships and a restricted range of emotional expression. The key traits are pretty distinct. Affective flattening is a major one. This means they show very little emotion. Their face might be blank, their voice monotone, and they won't react much to events that would make others happy or sad. Another significant trait is anhedonia, specifically social anhedonia. This is the inability to experience pleasure. While they might enjoy solitary activities, they find little to no joy in social interactions, friendships, or romantic relationships. They just don't seem to need or want that connection. As a result, they typically lead a solitary lifestyle. They prefer hobbies they can do alone, like reading, computer gaming, or mechanical projects. They aren't lonely in the way most of us understand it. They genuinely prefer their own company. On the ward, I've encountered patients who perfectly fit this description. They'll spend the entire day in their room, maybe reading a book or listening to music with headphones on. They show little interest in group activities or engaging with other patients or staff. When I try to start a conversation, their responses are often brief and to the point, without any emotional color. My approach with these patients is to respect their need for space. Pushing them into social situations is counterproductive and can cause them distress. Instead, I find moments for brief, gentle engagement. For example, when I bring their medication, I might make a simple, low-pressure comment about the book they're reading. It's about building rapport very gradually on their terms, without making them feel overwhelmed or forced to be someone they're not. Now for our third cluster A disorder, Schizotypal Personality Disorder, or STPD. This one is a fascinating and complex mix of eccentric behavior, cognitive or perceptual distortions, and intense social anxiety. People with STPD often feel like outsiders and have great difficulty forming close relationships. Their thoughts and behaviors can seem very odd to others. They share some traits with schizophrenia, like disorganized thinking, but they aren't disconnected from reality in the same way. Some of the hallmark traits include magical thinking. This is the belief that their thoughts or actions can influence events, like believing they can prevent a bad thing from happening by performing a specific ritual. It also includes beliefs in things like telepathy, clairvoyance, or superstitions that are outside their cultural norms. You'll also notice odd speech and behavior. Their communication might be vague, overly elaborate, or metaphorical. They might use words in unusual ways or drift off on tangents, making it hard to follow their train of thought. Their appearance can also be eccentric, perhaps wearing mismatched or stained clothing. Finally, they experience perceptual distortions. This isn't full-blown hallucinations, but more like illusions or odd sensory experiences, such as feeling like another person is in the room when they re alone or hearing a voice murmur their name. I once cared for a patient who was convinced that the nursing staff could read their thoughts. They were extremely anxious during every interaction, constantly looking around as if trying to block us out. In these situations, my strategy is to validate their feelings without validating the delusion. I might say something like, "It sounds like you feel very exposed and anxious right now, and that must be really difficult," instead of saying, "Don't worry, we can't read your thoughts," which could lead to an argument. I focus on maintaining very clear, concrete, and structured communication. Keeping conversations focused on the here and now, like what's for lunch or the plan for the day, helps ground them and reduces their anxiety. So let's do a quick clinical comparison to tie this all together. For paranoid personality disorder, the core psychopathology is pervasive mistrust. Their key behavioral pattern is being guarded and suspicious. Your best nursing tip is to build trust through consistency and avoid confrontation. For schizoid personality disorder, the core is detachment and affective flattening. Their key behavior is being solitary and indifferent. The best approach is to respect their space while gradually building rapport. And for schizotypal personality disorder, the core is cognitive and perceptual distortions. Their behavior is often eccentric, and they suffer from social anxiety. Your best nursing tip is to use clear, structured communication and validate their emotional experience without confirming their distorted beliefs. As a nursing student or a healthcare worker, recognizing these cluster A traits is incredibly useful. It helps you communicate more effectively with these patients. It allows you to provide empathetic and, most importantly, safe care. And it helps you understand their behavior without judgment. Remember, cluster A is often summarized as the odd, eccentric, socially awkward cluster. But with the right approach, these patients can engage in their care safely and effectively. It's all about understanding where their behavior comes from. I'm Lucas, and that's your guide to Cluster A personality disorders for nursing and psychology students. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and definitely comment below if you want me to cover Cluster B and C personality disorders next. Stay compassionate, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.